Hi. Hi, what's your name?
So, you think you want to work for childcare licensing? Protecting children in daycare is a very important job. As a daycare inspector or investigator, you can help make a difference in children's lives. But these jobs are not for just everyone. Before you apply, you need to know what you're signing up for.
I'll first start with my inspectors because I think that's where a lot of this job kind of starts. My inspectors do applications of new daycare facilities. They do the routine monitoring of daycare facilities, and they do standards investigations of daycare facilities. And when I talk about daycare, I'm going to talk about a facility, which is what most of us associate daycare with, which is your one that's on the neighborhood in a big brick building. But we also have in-home daycare.
As an inspector, our daily jobs is basically going into any daycare, any home that is regulated through the state of Texas. So that's what we do. We make sure that providers follow the minimum standards. And so we are the regulators. We are the people that go in to make sure that providers are following every standard in the book to ensure that they're providing a safe environment for the children.
When you work for the agency, when you work for licensing, obviously you become acquainted with the minimum standard rules. And the minimum standard rules is basically what we require these facilities to follow on a day-to-day basis. And their job is to take this book that we are now telling providers you have to follow, and they have to go in and inspect each standard to see that that provider is following the standards that's set forth in the Texas Administrative Code. But every inspector and investigator, when they do come into an operation, they are required to do what we consider a walkthrough of the operation, where they are looking for anything that is obvious.
First, we arrive to the facility or the home, whatever it might be. We introduce ourselves.
Hi, America with Childcare Licensing. I'm here to do your annual inspection. Okay, come on in.
Conduct a walkthrough. We talk to the person that's in charge, which might be the homeowner or might be the daycare director, and we tell them what we're there for, and basically to conduct either an annual inspection or an application inspection, and we'll let them know what kind of standards we're looking at and to make sure that they're advised of what we're all going to be looking at whenever we're there.
And then my investigators is more of a specialized position. They do strictly abuse and neglect investigations of facilities.
Investigating abuse and neglect cases can be difficult. It can be very stressful, overwhelming. It can be very difficult because you have to speak to several different caregivers. You have to gather all the facts. You have to staff with your supervisor, meet with law enforcement, medical profession. Also, we investigate child deaths. So it can be very stressful.
You're going to see the ugly side of human nature. Are you going to encounter it every day? No, you're not. But are you going to encounter it at some point in your career? Yes, you will. One of my toughest cases that I had was a heat-related death, but in a situation that you probably wouldn't expect. I received a case. It was an individual who was operating illegally out of her apartment. She roughly had 6 to 8 children that she was caring for on a regular basis, and she was placing the infants in the closet of her apartment, and that's where she was sleeping them. And I had to sit in a multidisciplinary teamed meeting and proceed to watch slide upon slide of the autopsy. And at that moment, it just really got to me that, you know, I'm sitting here looking at somebody else's child up on the screen having to go through this dissection of a sort for this medical examiner, and it was just a little overwhelming to be in that situation. Very hard.
We do have to go to illegal operations because we do do investigations for that, and so it is a little bit nerve-wracking sometimes, or kind of nervous when you first walk in, because you don't know what you're going into. You don't know when they're going to open the door, who's going to be behind. So it's just in those type of situations, a lot of the times you might want to take law enforcement with you. At illegal operations, we get a variety of things, where it could be just a nice house, maybe the provider was not aware of the minimum standards and did not know that they needed to be regulated, and so that might be something that's easy. But you can also go to the extreme, where you can go into a home that might be, not in the best conditions, where also childcare is being provided, and so there may be sanitary issues and things like that, so that could present, a hazard or a risk to a child.
One of the big things that you're going to encounter is the dog situation, because everybody's a pet lover and has all these animals, and you don't know if they're friendly or not. And there's been a few times that you're held captive in your car until you know if this dog is going to bite or not. But also we've run into situations where there are weapons accessible to children. Obviously that's a very intimidating situation to be in, because if they're accessible to children, they're obviously accessible to the adults in the household. And so you're gonna see it all. You don't know what you're gonna run into, so.
We regulate whenever the operations are open, so we go out, early in the morning or late in the evening, and sometimes during the weekends as well, because daycares are open 24 hours sometimes. They're open on Saturdays or Sundays to provide those services to parents. So we have to be able to see all the hours of operations for the daycare. So it might not be a typical 8 to 5 job.
You definitely need a reliable vehicle. I will say that my staff, covering as many counties as they cover, put a lot of miles on their cars, go through tires quite frequently, and roughly oil changes every 6 weeks. And so there's that ongoing maintenance that you have with your vehicle.
Your car is kind of like your little office. So that's how you get around. That's how you conduct investigations. And unfortunately, even though I have coworkers, but I just can't call them all the time and be like, can you bring me somewhere, because they have other things that they're taking care of too. So you have to have a car.
Make sure that you account for that into your budget. I mean, are we going to reimburse you for the mileage? Yes, but that's something that's done at the end of the month, and you won't get it till the following month. Your documentation is going to support the actions that you take while you're in the field, whether it's citing a deficiency on a provider, or it's in an investigation and you're determining if this individual abused or neglected a child. So your documentation has got to support what you do as an individual out in the field.
The best way to balance field work and paperwork in the office is to make sure that you always have a day in the office to ensure that you are responding to those phone calls and that paperwork that comes in. So it's just organization. The other thing is that documentation is better to be done while you're still in the operation. That way you don't have that to also take with you at the end of the day and still have to document either at your home or in the office. Depending on the home or depending on the operation, if they have a capability of providing me a room where I could sit and document, I would do that. But if they don't, I might just end my inspection, complete everything that I need to do in talking to the provider, and then go out into my car, leave, and maybe stop at a coffee shop or a restaurant, grab something to eat, and maybe document there.
They are definitely inundated with policies and minimum standards. They get all of this information thrown at them, and we want them to be successful in their jobs. And so we do a lot of pre-basic skills development activities where they go out in the field and they observe other staff. So they're going to go out with inspectors, and then they're also going to go out with investigators. So there's all of this activities that they have to do before they go to training. And then, of course, once they go to training, we're going to break down that policy for them. We're also going to break down the minimum standards for them. And then we're going to turn around and then have them somewhat mirror that out in the field, see what they've learned, and then take and apply it out in the field. We just don't throw people out there and hope that they can swim. We do a lot of coaching and mentoring and guiding them in that direction so that they can be successful. When I hire an inspector and an investigator, I am looking for the same qualities. I'm looking for an individual who can be flexible, adaptable, is self-motivated, can work independently, but also work well as a team.
I guess the best person for this job would be someone that knows how to prioritize, is organized, and is able to cope with changes and challenges.
There are some people that would not be well suited for this job. I talk a lot, especially with new staff, that if you operate as an individual of somebody who sees black and white, that it's either right or wrong, this may not be the job for you. Because while we do have very clear-cut standards, we operate a lot in the gray. So a lot of judgment and assessment comes into play, and if you can't operate in that, then you are not a good fit.
Hi, this is Nakia Walker with Child Care Licensing. I'm here to conduct an investigation. Thank you so much. The job is right for me because sometimes I like the adventure. I like to be flexible. I like to be able to sometimes come to work and not know what my day will be like. Also, I like to investigate. Miss Jessica?
Yes,
Hey,
ma'am.
do you have those files for me to look at?
I have them right here.
Is it okay if I sit on that side?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. To be a successful investigator, you have to be able to multitask. You have to be able to go in the center, speak to the director, and also listen to the environment, listen to what's going on. In case you hear something or don't hear, be aware of your surroundings at all times because something can happen. You have to be able to work with people, be able to talk to people, and be aggressive on some issues that we don't like to talk about.
I love this job because I touch the lives of the children whenever I'm out in the community.
Oh no, Pete stepped in a large pile of blueberries.
I'm able to teach providers about minimum standards, and that's a teaching moment that I take very valuable because as long as they are able to know what the standard is and what the risk behind it, they would be more responsive and doing the right thing.
As an investigator, while it can be a rewarding position for some individuals, it is a very tough decision. I mean, it's a very tough position. You are dealing with really the bad and the ugly of human nature. So if you're an individual that can't do that, then investigator's not for you. Maybe the inspector is a more upbeat and positive position, and that's the direction you need to go.